You get suspicious when we start recording?
Yes.
You get suspicious? This is called a cold open. We roll on everything just in case
By the way,
something.
I don't know if you've noticed, you've rarely been able to use one with me.
I know, because you're always you get so paranoid. As soon as we start rolling, you just get all serious.
Yep.
But these are the moments where the gold happens, Pierre. These little off-the-cuff moments. It's called a cold open, where something goofy happens.
The time of my life.
This is it. This is definitely the cold open happening right now.
Little dirty dancing there for you.
Hey, Pierre, let's never do that again, okay? And roll the music.
A different team this year than we were last year, and it's been exciting for a lot of us. I think you see the rejuvenated faces in this room.
Yes, Mark Scheifele and the Winnipeg Jets are heavily rejuvenated this year, and Rick Bowness has to get a lot of credit for that. We will talk with the Winnipeg Jets head coach coming up on today's edition of Got Your Back, NHL edition with LeBrun and Rishaug. Also on the podcast today, we're going to go round the NHL. What a night for Shane Wright. Scores his first NHL goal against the Montreal Canadiens. How apropos was that? How about those Toronto Maple Leafs? A huge win. The Marner streak continues, and Matt Murray is absolutely crushing it. A lot of talk about Ovi and goal scoring this year. How about Sidney Crosby? Goals coming from number 87. And of course, lots of NHL trade talk with our premier insider, Pierre LeBrun. Got Your Back NHL brought to you by Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals, providing equipment and supplies to all facets of the Canadian construction industry. What sets them apart, though, is their get-her-done attitude. It's a core value of their company. I've been to the head offices. They proudly display that on the walls in each of their branches, and every one of the staff members lives by that get-her-done formula to ensure they never let their customer down. They take great pride in this attitude and believe that their customer success is their success. Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals, title sponsor here on Got Your Back, LeBrun and Rishaug. Good morning, Monsieur LeBrun. How are you, my friend?
Ça va très bien, Monsieur Rishaug.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Anytime you bring the French, I know it's going to be a high-energy day from Pierre. I love that.
I'm going to see you in the flesh next week. I'm excited.
Yeah, getting on a plane, going to be at the Board of Governors, a little Stanley Cup final reunion for you and I. People always ask me, because I do these trips a couple times a year. They think it's this amazing trip to Florida. And I'm not going to complain about having to go to Florida, but it's a little bit different. We're not exactly sitting beachside. I'm sitting in a suit in 28-degree weather, waiting for a bunch of guys to stop talking so I can go annoy them. It's not exactly beachfront time that we're spending. I'd say.
It's funny that you say that. I was texting with one of the hockey dads in our group, and he's going to take my son to his game Sunday because I'll be in Florida by then for the Board of Governors. And I think I've talked enough about what these trips are like where my buddy said, by the way, enjoy sitting in a hotel lobby in your suit for 10 hours a day. So there you go. See, he gets it. But you know what? I enjoy it because it's networking. It's what we do. And I'm glad we do get to cover those meetings. Once in a while, you get a bombshell. I'll never forget the year. I don't know if you were there, Ryan, or not, but we were at the Board of Governors, I think in Pebble Beach. And Gary and I was given a kind of a heads up, be ready for after the first day of the meetings, the commissioner has something to announce. I was like, I wonder what this will be. There was no lead up, no hints, no leaks. And he sat there in front of the mic and said, we're going to let this group from Las Vegas do a bit of a ticket drive to see.
Yes, I was there.
And I was like, there was about 9 of us, right, in the room, because it doesn't get overcovered, the Board of Governors. Yeah. And overly covered. And we were just like, okay, this is happening. Yeah. So you never know. We'll see what happens.
Expecting any little nuggets this year? We'll do some podcasts from the Board of Governors, but I mean, what do you think? What's the agenda look like? Any potential nuggets of significant interest?
Well,
you
certainly
have to say yes, so that they still send us. By the way, you can't.
Well, I mean, some years it's a dud, but certainly the salary cap news is what most governors are really intrigued by in terms of the latest update from the league. They got a mini one in New York in October when I was there, but now this is usually the meeting where the league says, "Okay, this is what we're projecting. And normally the projection from this December meeting is pretty close to what happened. So, and remember, this is a big year because it's kind of a 50-50 proposition as to whether the cap jumps $4 million if the revenues hit right, or just $1 million, and then you wait another year for the big jump. And let me tell you, about 20 teams in LTIR right at the cap. You know what they're hoping for, Ryan.
Yeah, no kidding. We're hoping for action. We just want action at the trade deadline. So open it up, give teams a little bit of breathing room, a little more confidence moving forward. Maybe we'll see some more hockey deals, right? Because you see hockey deals with guys that have contract left, and maybe it spices up trade deadline a little bit if there's some good news that comes out of the BOGs. Okay, lots to get to. Round the horn from the National Hockey League. So let's get to the breakdown brought to you by our good friends at Pro Hockey Life. And Christmas is on the way, and Pro Hockey Life can be that one-stop shop for the hockey lover in your family. Some really cool products to consider. How about a Hockey Shot Hockey Radar? Track how hard you or your youngster is shooting that puck. The cool thing about that, you can see and measure improvement as time goes on. Really cool technology. Some other cool training devices, the Super Deke or the Helio Core Performance Sensor. They've got all that great technology to help measure and improve the growth in your game in different areas. Lots of cool apparel as well. Grab your favorite team's jersey or sweater. Lots of cool trinkets and memorabilia. Pro Hockey Life. It's Christmas time. They're obsessed with the game, as are the rest of us. Okay, Pierre, there's no place to start other than the Seattle Kraken last night, because we've talked about Shane Wright, it feels like every single podcast, and it's been bad news bears every time we've had to talk about him. Finally, something great happened for Shane Wright. Scores his first NHL goal, and the beauty of the moment, it was against the Montreal Canadiens, as we all know, the team that passed him up in this year's draft. What were you thinking when you saw that last night?
Well, they weren't the only team, so I guess he's hoping to score against all three teams that passed him up. But yeah, that was a fabulous moment. I'm happy for him. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who had to live with the hype and then what happened, disappointment, and I'm sure the second guessing. And he said something great happened for him finally. Something good happened for him before last night. I mean, going to the AHL in the conditioning stint and scoring 4 goals in 5 games, I think was a huge thing for him. I talked with someone close to him this week, and boy, did that get his juices going and his confidence back leading into that NHL opportunity playing against Montreal on Tuesday night. So he looked terrific. And it's interesting because I think that decision was like 90% taken that, he would probably join Canada at the World Juniors, and that, I traded text with Kraken GM Ron Francis Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, we'll make that decision over the next couple of days here. But it just seemed like
he doesn't go?
Well, no, I don't want to start anything here, but it's funny because when they made that decision, don't you feel like it's sort of based on why he doesn't look ready for the NHL, but we don't want to send him back to the OHL, so the World Juniors would be a nice little. And then he goes out last night and he plays pretty well. I think saner minds will prevail. I think the World Juniors would be a terrific opportunity for him in his development, and then who knows what happens after that, but we'll see. I mean, it's interesting. We still have to wait for the official decision from Seattle or announcement.
Kraken, one of the great stories in the league so far this year, 15-7-3, second place in the Pacific. And if they think he's going to be a contributor, here's the thing. Young players are susceptible to the ebbs and flows of confidence, right? We know this. Well, he's finally feeling some confidence. You talked about his AHL stint. Scores all the goals. The Quizmaster did some digging through the archives, and here's a stat for you on Shane Wright. He's got 5 goals in a 6-game span. It's the first time he scored 5 goals in 6 games since 1920, his rookie season in junior. So he's feeling it offensively, and you never know with a player of this talent level when you get feeling it and the confidence comes, what you might be able to do. Love the way he scored the goal, too. Took a big hit on the wall, went to the front of the net, goal scorer's goal. Good things happening for Shane Wright and Hockey Canada, I'm sure.
And the Habs winning another game that really they have no business winning. Yeah. It's been that kind of year for Montreal. The numbers suggest the doors should be blown off most nights in terms of the grade A's they give up, but Jake Allen was outstanding Tuesday night, and they still won in Seattle.
Marty St. Louis was through Edmonton here this last week and had the chance to interview him and chat with him a little bit. And man, for as intense a player he's sure an easygoing head coach, just a real easy nature and seems to be taking things in stride. And I think he's setting a really nice tone for that team. Toronto Maple Leafs, Pierre, 9-0-3 in their last 12. A 4-0 shutout over Dallas. Dallas is going right now, and that offense is going. But how about Matt Murray? 44 saves. 932 in 9 games, his save percentage. He's 6-0-2 since his injury. Like, holy snap. When they signed him, a lot of people kind of raised their eyebrow, myself included. But Matt Murray has proven a lot of people wrong right now.
So don't you think Pierre Darnell is watching the Leafs play right now and watching Matt Murray play, and he's saying, shut the front door. Where was this Matt Murray when we had him in Ottawa?
100%.
Because this is Stanley Cup Matt Murray from Pittsburgh right now. It's been a while since we've seen this kind of consistency and excellence from Matt Murray. And think about how the year started, right, Ryan? He's hurt right out of the bat. And Leaf fans are going crazy. Oh,
what
this guy's hurt again. What a disaster. Yeah. And the pressure on Kyle Dubas for taking this gamble. Well, fast forward a number of weeks later, the Leafs have lost 1 game in regulation since November 1st. Matt Murray's a big part of that since he's come back. I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say Kyle Dubas has won this gamble. It's done. What's the date today? December 7th. He's won. Samsonov was good when he's played this year. Matt Murray's been excellent. The Leafs were right. Well, it's December. And so the reality is both those guys have already got hurt once. So you have to mix the fact that you're getting excellent results when they're in net with the idea that let's see about their durability the rest of the year.
100%.
But so far, so good. So far, so good for Leafs management rolling the dice.
Yeah, too early for a verdict on that. Just you got to see how many games he can play and if he can stay healthy, because that was one of the main criticisms. Love the penalty kill last night. How about that 5-on-3? If you didn't see the game, so there's a 5-on-3, Leafs are down, then Mitch Marner gets his stick exploded, so it's 5-on-2.5. You got Matt Murray diving around in the crease like a madman. Leafs players jumping all over. I think they blocked 3 or 4 shots in that sequence. And with all these injuries on the blue line, Liljegren, Sandin, I mean, the defensive prowess that these guys are showing with extra added minutes, everything is coming up aces for the Leafs right now.
And I understand that if you want to be a glass half empty person, you'll say, well, wait till April. Of course. I mean, this season is the last referendum on this entire outfit. I get it. But what they've done without all their injured defensemen, with some of their goalies injured, and persevered through that adversity, I think can only help grow this team when that moment comes again in April, in terms of guys now that have played bigger roles, played bigger minutes, gained confidence from it. These things aren't wasted moments because the Leafs are playing regular season hockey and people know they're always good in the regular season. This is a different year. You don't get to do that. Now, I understand. Come April, they lose again in the first round. God knows what happens to the organization. But right now, the things that are happening to this team are nothing but positive.
And the players can't take on that same attitude. Like fans are, hey, show me in April, show me in April. The players have to be allowed to feel great about things that they're accomplishing in season here. They have to be allowed to feel that confidence build as a group and not have it always be, but the big stuff's coming. Yeah, I mean, you got to let players revel in this. And how much are the Leafs reveling in this? They should be. Mitch Marner, the streak continues. First time the Dallas Stars have been shut out all year. It's the Toronto Maple Leafs, minus all these defensemen. Austin Matthews scores an Austin Matthews-style goal last night. The goaltending's great. Lots going right now for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Pierre, lots to talk about Alexander Ovechkin and the chase and the goal-scoring prowess. But how about Sidney Crosby? Sidney Crosby right now is on pace to outscore Alexander Ovechkin for only the 3rd time in their head-to-head careers. It doesn't happen very often. 2 goals from Sidney Crosby last night. Love the way he scored these goals. He's playing fantastic hockey. 15 goals in 26 games of rejuvenated Crosby.
Unbelievable. And it's funny you say that. I was going to bring it up tonight. I didn't realize you were today because I was watching him part of that game last night. And I don't know, in terms of a national platform, if we're all guilty of, once we all decided that we took the fake a torch and best player in the world and politely asked Sidney to give it to us, and then we gave it to Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's sort of like, hey, what a career, Sidney. And we kind of all moved on. And part of it is the Penguins, the Penguins haven't been great last couple of years, but what can you ask for from Sidney Crosby that he hasn't done? He continues to be that consistent superstar over 200 feet, never cheats a moment, never cheats a game. It is absolutely still the greatest example of what you want in a center in the NHL in terms of his work ethic. I know you kind of run out of words, and maybe that's part of it is we've written about him so much and talked about him so much over the years, but he's still doing it. I mean, there are no signs of, is this the last year he's going to be good? I don't know. I mean, it looks to me like this guy can do this for another 5 years at least.
Oh, yeah. So 31 goals in 69 games last year. He's already got 15 in the 26 games he's played this year. I love the way he scored those goals, too. Just vintage Crosby, right? On one of them, wins a draw, goes hard to the net, battles hard with the defenseman, leaps up in the air when the shot's coming through to get out of the way, falls down, bats it in. He's less than a foot from the crease. And then the other one, my goodness, it was this tip in from the side of the net where the puck came in and he kind of had to just slice it over top of the goaltender. After the game last night, Mike Sullivan was asked about Crosby and the goal scoring prowess and the number of ways in which he's getting it done. Here he is.
The goal he got on the power play tonight on the back post there, when he drags his leg and he gets down, he makes himself big. I can't tell you how many times I've seen him score that goal over the years, and not a lot of guys can score that type of a goal.
Yeah, he's scoring goals in a way that, you think about the best goal scorers in the game. I don't know if there's a better guy that's right in and around that paint for just shaping things the way he shapes them, for those greasy areas right in and around. A lot of the best scorers in the game, they're good one-shot scorers, good power play scorers, and he can do that too. But right in around the net, Pierre, he's like a 20-year-old in his prime.
It's amazing, and this has been said often about him, but it's worth repeating. I mean, he's got a fourth line grinder's mentality in a superstar talented body, right? I mean, the way that he approaches the game is blue collar, and not every superstar does that, and there's a reason, because a lot of superstars are so talented that they can approach the game differently, but not him. He is just different. And, it's wonderful to see. And, again, if you're a hockey parent and your daughter, your son just picking up the game, find the Crosby package. Find the Crosby package for how you play at both ends of the ice. And there's no better example.
I'll never forget covering them. I can't remember which year it was, but covering them through one of their Stanley Cup finals and practice. After practice one day, it was kind of wrapped up. He was still out on the ice. I remember I was watching him. He skated right over to another player, grabbed him, kind of waved him, come over here. Took the player into the corner, explained to him what he wanted him to do, the way he wanted him to challenge Sid. And then they ran through this drill where Crosby was working on bouncing the puck off the boards behind his back and rolling, and then coming out the other side, and he had the player trying to defend him. He actually got a teammate, because there was a very specific element in his game where, I don't know if he saw it on tape, I don't know if maybe he failed at it a couple of times or whatever, but the awareness of every nook and cranny of his own game and the willingness to work on things that he's not good at. That's the thing, man. It's fun to work on the stuff you're good at. Crosby is dogged in working on the things that he's not good at. And after all these years, it continues to separate him. Got to get to some trade talk with you. Saw insider trading last night. You guys throwing a bunch of great stuff around. We'll get to Chychrun and we'll get to Boeser in a moment here. But Darren Dreger certainly raised some eyebrows there with Erik Karlsson chatter and the Edmonton Oilers. I know it was kind of Dreg's little nugget there, Pierre, but what do you make of the idea that the Oilers can somehow find a way to stuff that player and his salary cap into their lineup?
That's not a nugget you just try to softly drop, which is what Dregs did very well there.
It's still shockwaves here in Edmonton.
Yeah, because you got to make. I think he was really good. Dregs was, as the pro he is. Yeah. Not to suggest this is definitely happening. Of course not. He's just saying that obviously the Oilers brass are looking at all the different possibilities between now and March 3rd to upgrade the blue line, which clearly they have to do. I mean, the Karlsson thing is going to be fascinating on so many levels. First of all, the player controls his fate, right? 100% no move clause. So, whatever happens with him, if it happens, I mean, this could easily wait till the offseason, but it has to, it's like Claude Giroux a year ago who said, this is where I'm going. Well, that's essentially what Erik Karlsson has in his control over the rest of his contract. Number two, the contract, multi-years left at 11.5 million. Obviously the Sharks would have to eat out of that. How much are they willing to eat?
Yeah.
And when you see Erik Karlsson play this year, finally healthy, looks like the Erik Karlsson of old, but you're the team gambling on this. Are you sure that this is, you're getting this next year, the year after? There's so many wild cards to this. It's not going to be a trade where the Sharks net a whole lot in return, believe it or not, because this really is about moving the contract. I don't know. I mean, I think if you can make the money work, whether it's in Edmonton or another team, I know some people have talked about Florida. I think it's worth the gamble, because I think that if he's going to your team, it means he's waived and that he's willing to make that new market his new home for the rest of his career, essentially. And so I think there's a motivation there. There's a commitment from the player. That's important. Sometimes you get a pending UFA and it's like, I don't know, what are we getting here, right? I mean, he's here for 2 months, and this is different. This would be a hockey trade, and a gamble on one of the world's most talented defensemen. So I just think, and I could be wrong, I just feel like there's a better chance of this being an off-season deal once we know what's going on with the salary cap than it is in season here, but we'll see.
34 points. Wow. 28 games for a rejuvenated Erik Karlsson. Jacob Chychrun price continues to be high.
Mm-hmm.
And he's justifying it. I mean, listen, he's come back and he's played really, really well. I mean, he's played 7 games. He's got 3 goals, 6 points. He's taken 31 shots in those 7 games. So he's returned
22 minutes a night, Ryan.
Yeah, 22 minutes a night, 22-25 a night. He's returned with the intention to shoot. He's scoring goals. I think Bill Armstrong has to kind of be going like, yep, okay, because he's been asked a lot about the price and should the price change. And here his players come back, gotten healthy, and is absolutely justifying what Armstrong's been looking for all along.
And a bargain of a contract. And that's the reason for the high price, really. I mean, this guy signed for a couple more years at a really good deal, which means something in this landscape, right? I mean, Brandon Hagel was traded for 2 first-round picks last year. That's still something when you say it out loud that is fascinating, right? Because of his cap hit, $1.5 million. That cap hit for Brandon Hagel directly resulted, and he's a decent player, into Tampa having to spend 2 first-round picks. Now, granted, not high first-round picks because of the Tampa Bay Lightning, but that's the point here with Jacob Chychrun. I think that's got lost a bit. Like, people are, well, how good is he? Well, we can debate that part. I do think he's a top 4 defenseman, but it's the cap hit. You're getting a top 4 defenseman at that cap hit, and he signed for a couple more years. He's not a rental. So Arizona feels that's why they want 2 first-round picks as part of any package.
Lots of chatter in Edmonton, too, about whether the Oilers would be heavily invested in trying to make that work. Based on the asking price, Philip Broberg, a first-round pick. They got Xavier Bourgault in the minors as well.
Mm-hmm.
They have some good young prospects, and they've got their first-round pick this upcoming year. Oilers really need a second pairing left shot defenseman, and Chychrun would definitely fit that bill. But Ken Holland has been pretty hesitant to move first-round picks since he arrived here. He's basically held on to all of them. But this is the year, right? The Oilers are in this window, and if you're going to move a first-round pick in any year, this might be the year to do it, Pierre.
Well, by the way, I always kind of get nervous when someone says this is the year. That's really not the way to run a team ever. But you're right.
It might be here in Edmonton, man.
But that happened. No, I know.
Four last year, it's pretty clear what the glaring weakness is. I mean,
well, and of course, this is the year in Toronto, and this is the year in many places. But I was thinking the other day, who has more pressure to land a blue line upgrade between now and March 3rd? Or perhaps now in the moment. Is it Ottawa or Edmonton? Ottawa's not making the playoffs, so I guess you'd have to say Edmonton on the other hand.
It's Edmonton.
Yeah, but does Ottawa have to do this just hockey trade wise to set up next year at this point? You
Yeah.
know, they need help on their blue line.
Yeah, it's a good question, but I mean, again, McDavid, Draisaitl in their prime, got to the Final Four last year. Pretty obvious what the weakness is in their lineup. If their goaltending holds, they're going to hit the playoffs with expectations, but they got to upgrade this blue line for sure. Watch night in, night out. It's very, very clear that they need to. So we'll see what Ken Holland can get done, and interesting to see if he gets more aggressive with picks this year than he has been in recent years. Remember, he got bit, right? 2 second-round picks for Athanasiou, and it never really panned out with him at all. And he's been a little more hesitant to move high picks since that happened. Brock Boeser. Brock Boeser, I mean, I know that his agent is working it. You guys talked about the number of teams. Can we get into specific teams yet on the Boeser conversation? Do we know? Is it still too early, Pierre? Where does it lie, and who does it lie with on Brock Boeser?
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to predict when things will line up, but the sense I got the last couple of days was that this is going to take a bit of time. You know, I talked to a number of teams. Teams are interested in him. They don't like his AAV, $6.65 million for the next 2.5 years. So they want that to be mitigated somehow. But the Canucks, if and when the Canucks trade Brock Boeser, it has to be a deal that helps unclog their salary cap picture, which is not very good, right? So I don't think the Canucks are going to want to eat on that contract. So obviously a contract has to be going back as part of this deal, and that's, I think, part of the discussions that are happening right now. But listen, the fact that Ben Hankinson, the agent for Brock Boeser, was given the green light last week by the Canucks to speak directly to teams, what does that tell you? It tells you that I think the Canucks are, this is my own interpretation, but the Canucks are telling the agent who wants this process sped up, yeah, you think it's easy? Go ahead. You go talk to the teams and let me know what you hear. The cap. Open up cap friendly and look at all the teams that have no cap room, and this is what everyone's dealing with. Well,
and if they're not willing to eat, right? He's got 2 years left at $6.65 million on that 3-year deal that he did. And he's got 4 goals.
So as one GM told me yesterday, that he can't get into it. It just doesn't work for him. But I asked, well, how does this deal go down? And he said, listen, it has to be a pending UFA contract that goes back in the deal so that Canucks can liberate some cap room at the end of the year. Yeah. What does it matter this year? Right. But then the question is, what's the other asset in the deal as well that makes this all work? And how does it work for the team acquiring Brock Boeser that they can afford that AV after this year? Now you go back to our chat about the Board of Governors. The cap's going up $4 million. That could have an impact on a Brock Boeser deal. Mm-hmm. But if it looks like they're just going to fall short and it's only going up $1 million, might be harder to move them. Believe it or not, like this is sort of
an Erik Karlsson deal.
Same exactly, thing, right? Another impacted situation. Yeah, so. I think some GMs and governors are kind of waiting to get more info HR-wise.
Quickly, Colorado and the Nathan MacKinnon situation, they're 13-9-1, fourth in the Central. Will there be a push to maybe add something there just based on being without MacKinnon here for a little bit and underwhelming results? Not terrible, but underwhelming for the defending Stanley Cup champs so far.
Yeah, as I said on Insider Trading Tuesday, I mean, for now they can't. I mean, the original premise here is that all these players that are out, and they're out 5 of their top 6 forwards now with MacKinnon out. It's crazy. They're all coming back. And again, this is the tricky thing about having injuries in the first half of the season versus the second half of the season is that if these are all injuries that were happening in February, there's no question the Avs could say, well, that guy's not coming back to the playoffs. That guy's not coming back to the playoffs. And now you got $10 million to play with. But because all these guys are scheduled to be back at some point in the second half of the season, a lot of them actually quite sooner. I think Chychrun's on the man, for example. You kind of have to grin and bear it. Now, that doesn't mean they can't be creative, and that's why I don't want to say 100% no, they don't do something here. But I have a feeling they're just going to try and get through this and wait till the new year. And then I think as we get closer to February, I think Colorado is intent on being aggressive, and that's notwithstanding all the injuries they've had. I think they had that intention before the puck even dropped this year because they lost Nazem Kadri and never replaced him. And I think they always said to themselves, let's get through, the big part of the year here. And then when you get closer to March 3rd, you have more flexibility on the cap. If they're still in a playoff spot, and here's a team that literally won't care where they finish, right? They just want to get in. They know who they are when they're healthy again.
Yep.
But I think they do try to go get that top 6 player to fill that Kadri hole if they can.
All right, going to be interesting to see. Great stuff, Pierre. That was the breakdown brought to you by Pro Hockey Life. Lots more to come here on the podcast. Our conversation with Rick Bowness. By the way, we talked to him before their game last night against the Florida Panthers.
And we didn't jinx him.
Made his return. No, we didn't jinx him. Ended up winning a game. By the way, nice ovation for Paul Maurice last night. Parts of 9 years in that city. I thought the fans did a good job and a nice moment there for not just Paul Maurice, but for Jamie Compon as well, the assistant that was there for a lot of years with him.
Yeah, and that was a wonderful decade. Paul Maurice was such a stabilizing factor for that franchise. It was such a great fit forever, but nothing lasts forever. And it was clearly time and so unique that it was Paul Maurice himself almost a year ago. I think it was December 17th that stepped down. How many coaches get to call their own shot like Paul Maurice did last year?
No kidding.
But it was time. And Rick Bowness has been a breath of fresh air.
Oh,
yeah.
Amazing.
He has. To that end, here's Mark Scheifele post-game last night.
We're a different team this year than we were last year, and it's been exciting for a lot of us. I think you see the rejuvenated, faces in this room. Bones has really been on us a lot. Each and every day, whether it's a good game or a bad game, he's always looking to help us, and I think it's been awesome for me. It's been awesome for a lot of us. That, we're being challenged, we're being pushed to reach our full potential, and I think that does a lot for our team.
He was brought in for a reason. The personality that Rick Bowness has, what this team needed, Pierre. I think Kevin Cheveldayoff understood what this group needed, and that's a big reason why he brought Rick Bowness in. What stood out to you from our conversation with him?
Yeah, one thing that he confirmed that you and I have talked about his hire is that, in baseball, you get the high leverage relievers that come in for a big moment in a game. Like he was a high leverage hire. There was a bit of urgency as to where this whole thing was going in terms of a crossroads for this franchise. And he was brought in to fix things. And what we talked about, I thought he confirmed that, listen, he wasn't going around looking for a job anywhere in the league. This job came to him. It was the perfect fit. He could have easily retired. And I think the fact that the players know that he doesn't come here out of desperation, that he could have walked away after an amazing career, I think it's had an impact on the way everything's been embraced there with Rick Bowness. And
coaching carefree, right? Coaching absolutely carefree and doing a heck of a job. Our conversation with Jets head coach Rick Bowness is on the other side of the break. Thanks, Pierre. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you shortly here. You're listening to Got Your Back, NHL edition. Lots more to come. We want to tell you about a truly Canadian company. Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals provides equipment and supplies to all facets of the Canadian construction industry. But what sets them apart is their get-her-done attitude. It's a core value of their company. I've been to the offices. I've seen how they proudly display that on the wall at each branch. Every one of the staff members lives by the get-her-done formula to ensure they'll never let their customers down. They'll bend over backwards to get their clientele what they need when they need it. They don't make excuses. Cross Country Canada takes great pride in this attitude, and they truly believe that the success of their customer is their success. You can't get much more Canadian than that. All right, time now for Who's Got Your Back, brought to you by Liberty Smart Security, a company that specializes in having your back. High-quality, advanced smart security systems for your home or your business. Liberty Smart Security uses leading-edge technology to protect the things that you value most in life. Your home is your castle. Protect it with Liberty Smart Security. Visit libertysecurity.ca. I've been protecting my family, my home with a Liberty Smart Security system for the last 6 or 7 years and absolutely love the product. It's intuitive, it's smart, it's simple if you want it to be, and you get a great level of peace of mind knowing that you've got a monitored security system that's highly advanced, protecting you and your loved ones. That's Liberty Security Okay, this week's guest on the podcast, really happy to have Rick Bowness join us. Boy, the Winnipeg Jets are cooking. Hey, as we've discussed, Rick Bowness has coached in 5 decades, if you can believe that. The last active coach that actually coached back in the 80s. Here is his journey. Stay with me, folks. And this is NHL, AHL, assistant, associate, head guy. Here's his coaching journey. Sherbrooke, Winnipeg, Moncton, Winnipeg, Maine, Boston, Ottawa, Long Island, Phoenix, Vancouver, Tampa, Dallas, and now full circle back to Winnipeg. I've been everywhere, man. That is truly the case for Rick Bowness. You'll remember he was brought into Winnipeg after a stint in Dallas to try and rejuvenate a group that had gone, stagnant, let's say. And so far, the results have really been something. The architect of it this season, brought to you by Liberty Smart Security, Jets head coach, Rick Bowness. Well, he was the second-round pick, 26th overall in the 1975 amateur draft by the Atlanta Flames, 173 career NHL games, and 191 penalty minutes. Rick Bowness joining us. Thanks for being here, Rick.
My pleasure, guys. Good to see you.
Hey, do you recall who had the most penalty minutes in your draft year? Like, if you think back to that 75 draft, there were some tough fellas in that draft.
I would say Mel Bridgman, probably. He was number 1 overall. I would probably go with Mel.
It was close. No, it wasn't Mel. Willie Plett, 2,572 penalty minutes for the 5th round pick.
Okay. And the only reason I was a second-round pick that year was because the year before, remember in 1974, they were trying to hide guys from the World Hockey, so they allowed each team to draft somebody in the first 2 rounds as an underage. Mario Tremblay, Brian Trottier, Bobby Hess, those guys were all picked that year before. So that allowed me to be a second-round pick. If they were available the next year, I probably would have been a 3rd, 4th-round pick.
Wow. Well, whatever it takes.
That's some important context.
Yeah, very important context.
Forget that the first underage draft was 1974, but they were only allowed to pick them up in the first 2 rounds.
You just put an asterisk beside your own second-round pick credential. I'd just take the second-round credential and run, Rick. You don't need to explain that.
Lots of asterisks beside my name.
Well, listen, we really appreciate you joining us. I was taking a look at the standings here. You got this group at 15-7-1 at the time that we're taping this interview, 7-3 in your last 10 games here, Rick. I wonder, as you're quarter of the way or so through here, is there something about this group that maybe even surprised you a little bit once you got here and now that you're 20 games into coaching them?
I think you're always going back when you don't know the players only from coaching against them. But then when you get to work with them every day, you start to appreciate how not only are they really good players, but they're really, really good people who care an awful lot about the team and about winning. You start with our goalie, Connor Hellebuck. Man, he's just the real stud, as you know. But this guy shows up every day with a good attitude, ready to work, and obviously ready to play. He's an elite goaltender. Didn't realize how good a player Josh Morrissey was, and what a good, really, really good person. He's elite skating, high hockey IQ, great skills. So when you get to see these guys every day and you get to be around them and you start to appreciate and not only respect their skills even more, but just as important is to respect them as people.
Rick, I'm wondering what your thoughts are of how this opportunity came about. And, I remember you and I spoke at one point last year, and you didn't know what the future was going to hold because we knew that your deal was up at the end of the year in Dallas. And tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this was the opportunity as far as you wanting to still, as you put it in the past, grind away behind the NHL bench because this meant a lot to go back to Winnipeg.
Yeah, it certainly does. And clearly this is where it all started back in November of '83 in terms of coaching at this level. But at the end of the year, and I had said then that I wasn't going to chase anything. If somebody was interested in hiring me, then I'd certainly listen to any opportunities. I had 3 or 4 teams call about coming in as the associate coach and helping out, but they're all rebuilding teams. And at my age, I had really very little interest in doing that. As much as I love coaching, as much as I love working with younger players and developing them. I like to win too. So that kind of just kind of really didn't take a whole lot of interest in that. But when Winnipeg called, it piqued my interest, because we know that this playing against them for a couple of years, we knew this was a really good team. For whatever happened last year happened. They had a bad year. You kind of felt that I could go in there and help the team and get them back to where they were. But just as important to us, and Judy and I talk a lot about this, that if we're going to go back to work, because we could have retired, we're quite comfortable. We're going to make sure we go to work with good people. And the organization here has just been outstanding. Mark Chipman's a wonderful owner, working with Chevy and Larry Simmons and Crane Eisinger. These are great people, and I really, really enjoyed that. And they allowed me to hire my own staff, which is very, very important. In Dallas, that wasn't the case. Fortunately, I worked with good people there, but I was able to hire the people that I wanted to hire, and obviously Scotty or Neil Bradlauer, and hiring Marty Johnson, Wade Flaherty was here. Just have an outstanding coaching staff. So every day you come to the rink, it's a good team. They're good people, but the people you're working with, and management and coaches, they're really, really solid people. And I'm really enjoying every day. Again, if you want to, we all know the grinds of the NHL, the 82s, the ups and downs and everything. When you come to the rink, you want to make sure you enjoy it. And winning helps, but you also want to enjoy it with good people. And I'm surrounded by great people.
Rick, when you took the job, I know you spent some time, as lots of coaches do, reaching out and talking to players and trying to get a sense for whatever you can over the course of a summer. And you made some pretty significant change, we know, well documented, to the leadership group. But, there was a comment from Connor Hellebuck the other day. And I'm going to read it to you here. And I can't help but wonder if, when you hear this comment from Connor Hellebuck, if it isn't exactly what your goal was for this group. He said after a game, the way we are on and off the ice, especially this year, is just so much more lifting, so much more fun to be around. This doesn't feel like a job right now. It feels like we're enjoying the ride. Now, I know winning helps a lot, but to hear Connor Hellebuck say that about the environment that you've helped create around them, does that feel like somewhat of that goal accomplished?
Yes, that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted more voices to be heard. After talking to all the players, and as you know, we all reached out to them, as you said, new coaches taking over, and it was very apparent to me that they wanted. There's a lot of voices that felt they weren't being heard. So, okay, if that's what you want, we're going to give you that opportunity. And so we did. As tough a decision as that was, it was the right decision. And everyone's handled well. Everyone has a voice. So everyone feels part of, everybody has your captains, your A's, and your leadership group and all that. But we have 3 assistants, but we have everyone in that room. Their voice is just as important as anybody else's in that room. And I felt that was very, very important to create that. You want to change the culture. You want to change the environment. They want to be heard. Give them that opportunity. And then it's up to them. And this is a much closer group than people realize. I remember when I started to make the calls, Josh Morrissey just got married, and the guys were saying there was like 14 guys at his wedding. Well, that doesn't happen very often, right? So it tells you there that it's a closer group than the perception of it. But again, they all wanted to have something to say. So, okay, you're going to get that opportunity. And Connor's backing that up right there. You could go to any of our players, and they would tell you hopefully the same thing, that Cole Perfetti, a 20-year-old kid coming in, if you got something to say, we want to hear it. So that's the atmosphere we wanted around the room. And as a coach, I've always wanted my players to come to the rink and enjoy it. It's a grind. The practices, the meetings, the video, all that. You got to come to the rink. It's still hockey. It's still a game, and we can never ever lose sight of that. We've got to enjoy it. And as we talk to the players all the time, this is the best job in the world. It's the best league in the world, and we are blessed to be able to play in the National Hockey League every day in this league. Even for an old guy like me, I consider it to be a blessing, and never ever ever take a day in this league for granted. But enjoy the process, and if you got something to say, speak up.
Rick, and in part of doing that, in moving the C off of Blake Wheeler, obviously that was a big move. But here he is. He's got 22 points in 23 games. You've backed off his minutes just a touch from previous years, but he's playing some of the most rejuvenated hockey he's played in a long time. How impressed are you with his performance this year, and how are things between the two of you after something like that goes down?
They've been fine. There's been no issues at all. People automatically took the negative approach to that whole thing. People didn't realize that maybe this is a good thing for a 36-year-old player to not have to be the burden. And now that I'm back in Canada, I understand the pressures again.
Right.
Those 7 years in Vancouver, but we had the twins and Louis and Kessler and Kevin and all those guys that could handle with it all, right? But I always looked at it when I got involved that let's take the burden off of one guy here with the C in the Canadian market, because everybody kept telling me he's the face and all the media, he was the only guy speaking out to the media. Let's take that pressure off of him. He doesn't need that at this stage of his life. He's still going to be a leader. If you're a leader in an NHL locker room, you don't need a C or an A. You're just going to lead. And when I talked to Blake about this, and people always ripped it off. We didn't rip it off him. We talked about it. And this is what we think would be the best thing for you and for the team. Everyone took a very negative outlook at it, but he's relieved that he doesn't have to be the face, doesn't have to deal with the media every single day. And we do want that thing spread out. And it has made him a better player. And I said, now you can go home, you can enjoy your kids more, you can enjoy your family time more, because you're not carrying the burden of the sea. So I know initially it's a shock to everyone, and everyone said, oh, it's going to, what's going to happen there. But Blake has handled like a true pro. He's never complained about it. He comes to the rink every day, smile on his face, works hard, still helps the guys out. I think he's starting to realize too that this is life is good. I don't have to have that burden of the sea weigh me down. I can just play hockey, be a good father, be a good husband, and enjoy life a little bit more.
Rick, I've been watching and hearing you since the start of the year, and I've been thinking about something that is rare for a head coach in the game. And I mentioned this on our podcast last week, but I remember Dale Hunter went in for a half season in Washington, but everyone knew it was for what it was. And it gave Dale, I think, all kinds of, I don't know if the word is leverage, but comfort in that he was going to do it his way, and hopefully the players were going to buy in. Now, you may coach the Jets for the next 10 years for all I know, but my point is, you're not your typical coach that's looking over his shoulder. What about this? What about that? Am I worried about my job status? Am I worried about the job after that, which a lot of coaches are? And I get it. I'd be the same. All the stress in the coach's life. I feel like you're in such a good place having arrived at this gig. And I'm wondering if you feel that every day when you go to the office.
Yeah, well, I'm never one of those guys that, they were hired to be fired. I never, ever took a coaching job with that philosophy. I never, ever. I know that people talk about, I never talked about that or even thought it that way. I'm taking that team. I'm going to coach that team forever, every time I took a job. At this stage of my life and my career, am I worried about getting another job? Absolutely not. Because I wasn't worried about getting this job. This job came to me. I didn't go after this job. This job came to me. So am I worried about what's going to happen next month, next year or two? No, absolutely not. I'll be 68 in January. The run has been a lot longer than we ever could have imagined. The game has given Judy and I, our family, more than we ever could have imagined. So we're comfortable. We're happy. We know we've been very fortunate to coach in this league as long as we have. But no, you're absolutely right, Pierre. I'm not too concerned about what's going to happen. I want to enjoy every day of it because it's not going to last forever. There's a lot more behind me than ahead of me. So I want to enjoy every day with this job.
But my point is, in all seriousness, Rick, my point is that I think the players would probably feel that off you, your calmness and comfort that, frankly, a lot of coaches don't have. I mean, that's probably a positive environment that it creates, which is unique in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, again, I never took a job. Okay, I got to worry about this. I'm going to get fired. I always took a job. I'm going to do it my way. Whatever happens, happens. So, but again, for me, I always say this. I want to be a coach the way I want to coach the way I wanted to be coached as a player. I want the players to enjoy coming to the rink as much as you can. Winning helps, right? So, yeah. Anyways, We're in a comfortable spot, and I'm enjoying this gig very, very much.
Pierre, are you writing every day thinking about your next gig? Because I often worry about my next one.
You better believe it.
Yeah, exactly.
Off the payroll is good, man.
Rick, you mentioned Josh Morrissey a little bit earlier, and just sort of saying it, even realizing what a good player he is. I read an interesting quote from you. You challenged Josh. You said, listen, you know, when they're talking about Norris Trophy candidates at the end of the year, top 10 defensemen in the league, I want you to be in that conversation, in and around that conversation. He is absolutely blowing the doors off offensively this year. He's got 26 points in 23 games. His career high was 37 before this. Did you know he had this level in him when you made that suggestion to him?
Kind of, yes, honestly, because I remember coming into Winnipeg a few years ago, and I remember a lot of our pre-scout was that Morrissey was their best defenseman, and we got to know when he's on the ice, and he's going to run the power play more than you thought. So that's what I remember. I don't remember whatever happened here last year. So I kind of approached him that way. Like, I remember coming in with Dallas, and I remember our scouting report focused a lot on you, on just making sure we knew where you were on the ice. So I took that approach to him, so that if we're coming in being aware of you, other teams are too. So that's the respect that you have around the league. But now I'm looking at all the voting last year, and I don't see your name there. We're going to get your name back in there. We're going to let you be Josh Morrissey. We're going to let you play your game. We're going to let you join the rush. We're going to let you do whatever your hockey IQ tells you to do. So there's no harness on him. He's got the green light to go play, and it's encouraged.
What did you sense from him when you said that, Rick? What did you get back from him?
Like oh wow, okay, let's stick. I think he took a different look at himself, right? He did. But they're all very frustrated. That's one thing I learned about the conversations in the summer. They're all very disappointed and very frustrated with how last year went. They were all anxious to get back on the ice in training camp and prove that they're better players and they're a better team. So Josh he took that to heart, and he knows he was a better player than he showed last year. He knows we're a better team than we were last year. So he's doing everything he can to correct those two areas.
You know, you had Andrei Vasilevsky in Tampa, Jake Ottinger really come on the scene last year for Dallas. What a first-round series against Calgary. Now you got Connor Hellebuck playing like Connor Hellebuck, the Vezina guy from a few years ago. Are you concerned that the goalie fraternity is going to want to knock on your door and get some of that Rick Bowness magic here? Or what do you see in Connor Hellebuck's bounce back season here so far?
No, we just, when we looked at all the analytics last year from Winnipeg and all the high danger chances they gave up. But my first conversation with him when I called him was, we're going to make your life a lot easier. We're going to cut down on those grade A's against now. We're giving up some outside shots. They can have those all day. But what we have done is we have made his life and Riddick's life a lot easier. We've cut down on the grade A chances against us. So he's playing great. There's obviously breakdowns. There's obviously mistakes made. And when they're made, he's making some huge saves. And it's the timely save that keeps you in the game. So he's been incredible, but we did make a promise to him that we would try to make his life a little easier. The games we haven't, but then we've corrected those things. So he's been outstanding. And again, I love the man. He's got a great competitive side to him, and he wants the ball. He'd play 82 games if you let him. So we're trying to space it out a little bit, give him some rest, so that fine play will continue throughout the year.
Well, listening to him talk post game sounds like he's got a bit of weight off of his shoulders, maybe compared to the past. Listen, Rick, the podcast is called Got Your Back. We love getting people's stories about that time in their life where somebody came through for them. So if I pose that question to you, who had the back of Rick Bowness?
I think there's probably more of the opportunities than one, but you know, those first early years in Ottawa, they were tough years. Right? They were tough years. You talk about challenging a coach, but I had E.J. McGuire and Alain Vigneault on my staff. And I never worried 1 second about those guys had my back every day. Chico Resch was our goalie coach, and those guys, man, they were so supportive. And I'd come in a little upset, man. They'd pump me back up and get me refocused. So EJ was unreal, Alain was unreal, and Chico was as well. So those guys kind of looked after me through some very, very trying times as a young professional coach back then. So I'll never forget that.
Feels like you paid it back.
Can you refresh my memory?
Yeah.
Rick, sorry, Ryan. Can you refresh my memory, Rick? Were the expansion draft rules the same for Ottawa that year as they were for the Vegas Golden Knights? I can't remember because of the player options.
I don't think so. We were so bad, they changed the rules the next year for Anaheim and Florida. Remember, we got everyone's third or fourth string goalie. We got everyone's sixth, seventh, or eighth defenseman, and we were so bad they changed the expansion rules the very next year.
1070 and 4, I think.
Yeah.
1070 and 4.
And I don't know how we did that.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to let you get out of here, but quickly, Rick, a few rapid fire questions, and then we'll get you out of here because I know you're busy. You up for some rapid fire real quick?
Sure.
All right. Worst scrap that you ever lost was to who?
Oh, I can tell you, I never lost.
You got the perfect record.
I remember Jerry Korab. Remember big Jerry Korab? I fought him in Buffalo, and he was so much bigger than me, and he just held me out there, and I couldn't reach him. Remember Dogs, what they call him, big Jerry Korab. I couldn't reach him.
In all of the cities that you've been as a player and a coach, what was your longest commute to the rink, from home to the rink? Which city?
It would be Dallas. It was 30 minutes down to the game rink.
That's not too bad, actually.
No.
What does Rick Bowness have on the radio in the car on the way to the rink?
Classic rock and roll.
Classics. Very good. So favorite band then would be?
Pardon me?
Favorite band would be who?
Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin. Solid. A player who never ended up coaching that you think would have made a great coach?
Ray Bork.
When computers and data became a thing, did you embrace it or did you fight it every step of the way?
No chance, man. I embraced it. The one term I never want to hear associated with my name is old school. So whatever came along, man, I jumped in.
Well, I don't want to tell tales out of school here.
Because say he's old school. I hate that term, so I embrace it. I embrace analytics. Anything that's coming along, I'm embracing.
I don't want to tell tales out of school, but there was a slight bit of concern about your ability to hop on this chat effectively.
Yeah, that would be true. But that's why we have video coaches. They help me out with this stuff.
Last book that you read?
Oh gosh, good question.
No you can answer. Pass. Okay, no problem. You ever call an opponent after a game to apologize?
No.
Never done it. What other sport you think you might be able to coach?
Golf.
Yeah? You got some game, Rick? How are you out there?
No, but I can pretend I do.
You're good from the cart, giving tips from the cart?
That's what exactly. Here, hold the thing like that.
Okay, last one, and keep in mind, we may have some research on this one and know the answer. Have you ever dressed up in a Santa suit for the kids?
Yes.
Yes, you have? You care to refresh us on that story? Was that Jimmy Nill?
Yeah, that is very true. So, yeah, we had our grandson with us that year, so it was his first Christmas, so I dressed up for Santa, and then Jimmy had his grandchildren over, so he wasn't that far from the house, so we drove over and made a little walk around the yard so the kids could see Santa. That was fun. I enjoyed that. I still have that outfit.
That's awesome. Great stuff, Rick. Well, listen,
Rick, that's a reminder that you got to look at your contract more carefully and all the different subclauses in there. I mean,
Rick, really appreciate your time. Best of luck the rest of the way, and thank you kindly for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Great seeing you guys.
You too.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick. Thank you very much.
All right, that's going to wrap up the podcast. Big thanks to Rick Bowness for taking some time to join us here on Got Your Back, LeBrun and Rishaug. Thanks to our sponsors, as always, Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals, Pro Hockey Life, and of course, Liberty Smart Security. Going to try and drop another edition of Got Your Back NHL, maybe a little bit later on in the week. Check us out on Friday. Thanks for your downloads and your subscriptions, folks. Have yourselves a fantastic day. Look forward to chatting with you soon. Cheers.